Welcome to the Papa Dennis Show. I'm Dennis Elliott. It is Thursday, October 22nd. And 2 weeks from today, hopefully, we will know exactly who the next president is going to be. And hope to God it's not Donald Trump. But we'll just have to wait to see. 2 weeks from today, it'll be the Thursday after the election. It'll be November 5th, 2 weeks from today. So less than 2 weeks to go to get out and vote. And we've got the debate coming up tonight. I think it's going to be another, I think the chances are pretty good it's going to be another shit show, just like the last one was. That's my opinion anyway. And we'll talk about that some. We'll talk about the 60 Minutes interview that President Trump walked out on. But first, I wanted to talk about what's going on with COVID-19, and it's not good. North Carolina Governor Cooper has extended phase 3 of reopening as the coronavirus pandemic worsens here in North Carolina. And I think one of the reasons that it's getting bad here is Donald Trump's rallies. He's having these rallies all over the state. People from all over the state are going to these rallies and exposing themselves and then coming back and exposing others. So I think it's got a lot to do with it. I really do. I think Donald Trump is one of the reasons that we're having a resurgence here in North Carolina. But Governor Roy Cooper yesterday extended phase 3 of the pandemic reopening plan until November 13th and urged 36 counties, including us in Guilford, to improve compliance with executive orders as COVID-19 cases and hospitalizations reach highs not seen since the summer's worst weeks. New cases rising. The state is asking elected officials in 36 counties, including Guilford, Alamance, Davidson, Randolph, and Rockingham in the Triad, to consider actions to improve compliance with executive orders. 36 counties include the state's 3 most populous counties, had 300 new cases in the last 14 days, or more than 50 cases for every 10,000 residents, according to a news release. Guilford County has had 198 cases per 10,000 people. Rockingham County, right on our northern border, has 194 cases per 10,000 people as of Wednesday, according to the state data. So take care of yourself. Wear a mask. Remember, wearing a mask doesn't necessarily protect you as much as it protects other people. You're wearing the mask so that if you're asymptomatic and if you've got the COVID virus and don't know it, then you'll have a decreased chance of spreading it to somebody else. That's why you're wearing a mask. All right. Don't think that wearing a mask is going to help you, because it's not going to help you as much as it helps other people. A lot of people think if they put the mask on, they're protected. And that's not necessarily the case, because you can still come into contact with it. But wearing a mask decreases the chance that you're going to be spreading it to some other people. So look at it from that standpoint, okay? It's more of a prevention for other people rather than as much of a prevention for you. You're doing it to help spreading it, to keep from spreading it to other people. So just be careful, all right? I personally have not gone into a restaurant since March, and I don't plan on doing so. I'm trying to avoid being exposed to this as much as I can. I don't want to take any chances. You're taking a chance all the time anyway, just living your life, it's taking a chance. But take care out there. Okay, wear a mask. But that's what we've got going on, and I think Donald Trump has a lot to do with. I think he has a lot to a lot of the blame for spreading this virus around. So, what else is going on? Got the presidential debate tonight. It's going to be interesting. 5 things to watch out for in the final Trump-Biden presidential debate. This is the last one. What do you think is going to happen tonight? Is Trump going to be able to control himself better than he did in the last one? I don't think so. I don't think he's got the self-control. We keep expecting him to show up and be brilliant, but I think that's way too much to expect out of Donald Trump. The Hunter Biden thing. Nobody cares about Hunter Biden. Okay, Hunter Biden doesn't hurt Joe Biden at all. The only people that are concerned about Hunter Biden are the people that wouldn't be voting for Vice President Biden anyway. So the Hunter Biden story is a nothing burger, as they say. It has no effect on Joe Biden. It's just something that that President Trump is going to try to use, but it's not going to have any effect. And I think he's going to bring it up every opportunity he can tonight. If they ask him about question about what he'd do to help prevent COVID-19, he's going to bring up Hunter Biden. If they want to talk about election security, he's going to bring up Hunter Biden. He's just going to keep bringing it up over and over again because he thinks that that's what's going to help him tonight, and it's not. And it's just going to be a mess tonight. They've got the new rule tonight where the first 2 minutes of each segment, the mic will be muted so that whoever's speaking will be able to speak uninterrupted. That's the plan. But the interruption can still take place because Trump can still start talking. It may not be coming over the mic, but you're going to hear it in the background. And it's going to be confusing to everybody. But that's what's going to happen. And he's upset about it. Why would Trump be upset about having the mic muted? They agreed before these debates ever took place that they would have this 2-minute period where the person speaking could speak uninterrupted. They agreed to that. So why is he upset about having the mic muted unless he wanted to interrupt, which is what he's going to do? But that's what's going to happen tonight. He's going to interrupt over and over again. How is Biden going to handle the personal attacks tonight? I don't know. That's going to be interesting to see. I hope he can hover above them. I hope he can still get his message out, but it's going to be tough. This is going to be a mess tonight. So that's coming up. Trump, of course, you've heard about the 60 Minutes interview he ended after calling Leslie Stahl's questions no way to talk. And President Trump released the full interview. It's not the version that 60 Minutes is going to have. It wasn't done with 60 Minutes cameras. As I understand it, this version was done with their own cameras, and they said they wanted it for archival purposes. And what they've done is they posted it on Facebook. I think it's something like 38 minutes. Yes, a 38-minute clip that he's posted on Facebook. Mr. Trump urged viewers to, quote, look at the bias, hatred, and rudeness on behalf of 60 Minutes and CBS. But a review of the footage shows Leslie Stahl calmly and firmly asking the president questions on the coronavirus and other topics, and Mr. Trump growing increasingly irritated. He doesn't want to answer any questions. That's the whole problem right there. He wanted to talk about Hunter Biden. He wanted to talk about things that he wanted to talk about, not necessarily what was important. And when you're being interviewed by someone, the idea is they interview you, they ask questions, and you answer those questions. He doesn't want to do that sort of thing, which is why the debate's going to be such a mess tonight. But from the outset of the interview, the president suggested that Leslie Stahl was not being fair before proceeding to complain about the topics that the anchor brought up, including the flagging economy and the rising numbers of coronavirus cases in more than 40 states. So he doesn't want to talk about those sorts of things. He spent much of the interview complaining about Ms. Stahl or insulting her, accusing her of being negative in her approach. He said, "You brought up a lot of questions that were inappropriately brought up right from the beginning." How can it be inappropriate to bring up questions about issues in the news about the coronavirus and the economy? How can that be inappropriate? Well, it's not. He says, she said, "Don't you think you should be accountable to the American people?" The footage released by President Trump was filmed by White House staff members. CBS said that the president's aides had pledged to use the footage for archival purposes only, but of course, they lied about that. The interview, which is set to air this Sunday night, and, you know, he's giving a lot of publicity to this interview ahead of time. He's bringing a lot of attention to this, and more people are going to tune in to watch the interview because of the temper tantrum that he has thrown over the interview. The interview, which is set to air this Sunday, also features interviews with the Democratic candidate, Vice President Biden, and his running mate, Senator Kamala Harris. Says in the article here, as a tactical matter, Mr. Trump's decision to release the video just hours before the last debate with Mr. Biden was curious. One Republican noted that it meant that the Democrats would have some insight into how the president might answer certain policy questions. In the interview, Mr. Trump makes a notable pronouncement about his opinion of the Affordable Care Act. He told Leslie Stahl that he wants the Supreme Court to abolish the Affordable Care Act, commonly known as Obamacare, of course. He said, "I hope that they end it. It'll be so good if they end it." Pressed by Leslie Stahl on how he would handle a scenario where millions of Americans abruptly lose their health insurance, Mr. Trump said repeatedly that he had a plan, but he doesn't have a plan. Leslie Stahl pointed out that he has not shown a plan publicly. Mr. Trump falsely claimed that he had. Where is the plan? What is it? What does it say? It doesn't exist. It's not there. At one point, Mr. Trump falsely claimed he had never said a version of "lock her up" about Governor Gretchen Whitmer of Michigan, who was recently the target of a foiled kidnapping plot. In fact, after his rally crowd chanted "lock her up" as he campaigned in Michigan last weekend, Mr. Trump said, "lock them all up." So, just another lie, of course. He lies all the time. At another point, he tried to raise issues about Mr. Biden's younger son, Hunter, and his business dealings. See, that's what he really wants to try to talk about. When Ms. Stahl noted that it was Mr. Trump's personal lawyer, Rudolph Giuliani, and his former chief strategist, Steve Bannon, who pushed a so far unverified story to the New York Post, Mr. Trump claimed he didn't know what they were doing. The two gentlemen, he called them. He didn't know what they were doing. So anyway, Mr. Trump did not hesitate to express his frustration with the way the interview filmed at the White House on Tuesday had gone after declining to tape a planned segment with Vice President Mike Pence. Mr. Trump began taunting Ms. Stahl on Twitter, posting a short video of her at the taping and noting that she had not been wearing a mask. On Thursday, that's today, President Trump referred to the interview as a vicious attempted takeout and told his Twitter followers, "Watch her constant interruptions and anger. Compare my full, flowing, and magnificently brilliant answers to their cues." I love that. I love that language. I got to read that again. Told his Twitter followers, watch your constant interruptions and anger compare my full, flowing, and magnificently brilliant answers to their questions. Towards the end of the clip, Mr. Trump complains that 60 Minutes had been tougher on him than Mr. Biden. We probably won't see that. They're probably going to ask Vice President Biden some tough questions in their interview, too. He said, I see Joe Biden getting softball after softball. I've seen all his interviews. He's never been asked a question that's hard. Leslie Stahl said, well, forget him for a minute. You're president. And he got upset with that, of course. He said, excuse me, Leslie, you started with me. Your first statement was, are you ready for tough questions? That's no way to talk. No way to talk. He was offended by that. What a pussy this guy is. Can't believe people are actually voting for this guy. But anyway, that right there is what has happened with this 60 Minutes interview, and what they're doing here. It's indicative of what you're going to see tonight during the debate, I think. No, I'm not going to predict it. But, he could walk out of the debate tonight. He could just decide to get up and walk out. That would be amazing. All right, what else is going on? Story here in the Washington Post. The U.S. has already hit 89% of total 2016 early voting. 89%. We still got 12 days to go until the election day. At least 42.1 million have voted nationwide. Early voting count suggests a record level of voting that's going on. Highly enthusiastic voters. Hopefully this means we're going to vote the guy out. We'll have to wait and see. Democrats hope it leads to a decisive victory. Registered Democrats are outvoting Republicans by a large margin in states that provide partisan breakdowns of early ballots. Republicans, however, are more likely to tell pollsters they intend to vote in person. That could be the case. And the GOP is counting on an overwhelming share of the election day vote going to Trump. So all I can tell you is get out there and vote, okay? Please get out there and vote. Voting by mail, of course, also going on. Expanded mail-in voting. It's just amazing what we're seeing. 21.2 million people have voted in battleground states. What is that from? That is total early votes compared with 2016. So it's looking good. And this is an interesting story here from Georgia. They're having record voting going on in Georgia also. 1 million new voters in Georgia since 2016. And it's a younger, more racially diverse electorate. There are now a record 7.6 million registered voters in Georgia. Nearly 2/3 of new voters since the last presidential election are people of color. White voters make up over half, about 53% of all registered voters in Georgia. As Georgia's voting population has climbed in recent years, elections have steadily grown tighter. Just 55,000 votes separated Democrat Stacey Abrams from Republican Brian Kemp in the 2018 race for governor, which is a 1.4% margin. That was close. Who was it I saw this morning? Somebody, I can't remember who it was, said they were going to, they were asking them who they were, what state that they were going to be looking at on election night. And they said Georgia. They said Georgia was the one that they were going to be looking at because they thought that Georgia was going to tell us something on November 3rd. 200,000 over the last 3 months. The number of voters, new voters, jumped by 200,000 over the last 3 months in Georgia. They said so many people have already signed up, it's hard to find new ones to register. That is great. Over 5 million of the state's voters are expected to turn out in this year's election, easily dwarfing the 4.1 million who voted in 2016. Boy, I hope this. I hope this is indicative of a landslide for Joe Biden. Now, here's something interesting I wanted you guys to see. It runs about 5 minutes. It ran this morning on MSNBC. Steve Kornacki, he's a very smart guy. He does the for MSNBC and NBC. He does the stats and so on. And he talked about he looked to the election map to game out different scenarios for the race between President Trump and Joe Biden and the paths to victory for each. This was interesting. I wanted you to see this, so let me show this to you.
News and MSNBC, Steve Kornacki. Steve, as you look at some of these pollings, you put it together with your map. What are some of the scenarios you see playing out here?
Yeah, let's take a look here at the road to 270 and what you see. This is how things landed in 2016. Of course, Trump with 306, but let's work off those poll numbers you were just going through right there, because I think 3 states you were just talking about them really jump out, and it's Pennsylvania, Michigan, and Wisconsin. And remember, when Trump won those states in 2016, in all 3 of those states, his margin was less than a point. It was a fraction of a point. And of course, these were also states that had not gone for a Republican in 3 decades, since the 1980s. So these were narrow wins in traditionally Democratic states that made all the difference for him. How important are these states for Trump? Look at it this way. Those polls we just showed you, if Wisconsin went to Biden, if Michigan went to Biden, and if Pennsylvania went to Biden, those 3 states alone that Trump won by the skin of his teeth in 2016 would put Joe Biden over the top. And Trump would be in a position at that point. He could win Florida. He could win Carolina. He could win Arizona, Georgia, Texas, Ohio, Iowa, everything else you mentioned. He could sweep them. If he does not get one of those 3 Midwest states that he flipped in 2016, he's under 270, doesn't win the election. The only other thing he could do at that point is he could pick off a state that Hillary Clinton won in 2016. But then you're in a world where he's losing these 3 states, but somehow winning Minnesota. He's losing these 3 states, but somehow getting New Hampshire and Nevada. It becomes implausible if he can't hang on to at least one of these battleground states. And certainly his campaign has been treating Pennsylvania with 20 electoral votes as their most likely target there in terms of their time, in terms of their resources. You can see if Trump did find a way to hang on to Pennsylvania, okay, now he'd be back to 280. He'd have to defend Florida. He'd have to defend North Carolina. He still would have a very, very small margin for error. But just to stay in this thing on election night, that's one way of looking at it. I think these 3, he's got to find a way to win at least one.
And of course, Steve, if he doesn't win Florida, Katie bar the door, it's over. Right now, there are 2 polls that came out showing Joe Biden up by 4 points. That's hard to believe. It's hard to believe, again, talking to the people that know this state better than anybody else. It's hard to believe that this race is going to be decided by more than 1 percentage point. Talk about Florida and how actually the results that we get in, because we've been talking about weeks, we may be doing this for weeks and weeks and months and months. Of course, the alternative to that is the fact that Florida could let us know by 9 p.m. on election night who's going to win in either direction. I remember in 2004 seeing the numbers come out of Miami-Dade, Broward, and Palm Beach County, what Republicans call the killing fields, every 4 years. And I saw that George Bush had far outperformed how he did in 2000. And I turned to everybody on set then and said, this is not going to be 2000. George Bush is going to win Florida fairly comfortably and most likely win the rest of the country that way. Talk about what we may know actually by 8 p.m. election night.
Yeah, that's the fascinating thing, Joe. In Florida, they were kind of doing COVID-style elections before COVID. extensive mail-in voting, extensive early voting, getting them all tabulated and reported out quickly so that, yeah, I think we're in a situation in Florida on election. These are famous last words, of course, because once upon a time in 2000, Florida was a disaster on election night. But if nothing like that happens, we're in a situation in Florida where we're going to get in that first hour when polls close in these counties, all their early vote and all the mail-in vote that they've tabulated, and then the rest is going to come in most of these counties very quickly. And you're going to be able to look at counties in Florida, places along the Gulf Coast, for instance, where at about 8:30 on election night 2016, you could see Trump was running up the score compared to Mitt Romney 4 years earlier, where turnout was through the roof and where you could say, okay, something is happening there in Florida. And then you could quickly work your way up and say North Carolina, you saw it, the Midwest, you saw it. But by 8:30, election night 2016, you had a sense that the political world was changing because of Florida. That could be the case again on election night 2020, because, again, I just reset it to 2016. If Biden were to get Florida, and you say this, possibly you get a result there on election night relatively early. If Biden were to get Florida, that alone brings that total from Hillary Clinton's 232 to 261. That's not enough for Biden, but that puts him in a situation where basically any one other state, look, I just said Pennsylvania, but could be Michigan, any one other state with Florida pretty much would put him over 270. So, yeah, Florida kind of sets up as a state with the potential to get a lot of its vote in to really give us a readout. And it kind of sets up as an early, almost elimination contest for Donald Trump. He's got to win it. He's got to win it. And we're going to get Florida and I think potentially North Carolina in those early hours, a lot of Carolina at least.
Wow.
All right. So that was interesting right there.
As a young girl,
Well, I don't want to hear about it as a young girl. This interesting story here today. North Carolina returns of mail-in ballots vastly outpacing 2016. This is a story from today. North Carolina voters continue to fill polling places and their mailboxes. Over 2.1 million North Carolina residents have already cast a vote in the 2020 election. 2020 ballots cast 14 days from election. As you see there, early voting, 1,494,960, 660,390. Now look down here in 2016. 14 days from the election. Look at the difference there. 80,000 mail-in votes in 2016 at this point, and now 660,000 mail-in votes. Early voting at this point in 2016, we had 738,371. Now we're at 1,494,960. I hope this portends something great. Age of voters casting ballots by mail in 2020 and 2016. Look at that. That is interesting right there. Wow. Oh, and ballot tracks. Don't forget about ballot tracks. If you're voting by mail, make sure you register on ballot tracks. All right. BALLOTTRAX.net. Go there and register, and you'll get notification. You'll get text messages and emails telling you what's going on with your ballot. And you'll know when it's been accepted by the Board of Elections. All right. So make sure if you're voting by mail, you get it in there. All right. What else is going on? The relentless shrinking of Trump's base. This was an interesting story. A steady decline in white voters without college degrees. This is a chart from 1976 to 2018. Look at minority voters. In 1976, they made up 11% of the electorate. Now they make up 27%. White voters with college degrees Another segment that does not work well with Trump. 17% in 1976. It's 34% now. White voters without college degrees, which have gone heavily for Trump, that made up 71% of the electorate in 1976. Now it only makes up 39%. So it's declining. Donald Trump is depending on a declining segment of the population for his votes. And that's indicative of the entire Republican Party, for that matter. They're depending on a declining group of people. They've got to change what they're doing. All right, what else we got here? Oh, that was it. That was the same story. So what do we got to look forward to tonight? We've got the debate coming up. It's going to begin at what, 9 o'clock tonight and go to 10:30, scheduled for an hour and a half, unless Trump ends it early. Maybe he will. It's a real possibility. I think he could actually walk out of everything tonight. But he's going to try to Hunter Biden everything. It's all going to Hunter Biden all the times, what he's going to be trying to talk about. He'll try to change the subject constantly to Hunter Biden, I think. I'll be surprised if he doesn't. Might be a good drinking game. Of course, you could end up sloshed in no time at all. Every time he brings up Hunter Biden, you take a drink. I don't know. I would, that might not be a smart thing to do. All right. So enjoy yourself tonight with the debate. We'll talk about it tomorrow, hopefully. I'll be able to come on and talk about what we saw and what it means. And we'll see. All right. It's going to be interesting tonight. I'm so looking forward to politics not being so interesting. I really am. Hopefully 2 weeks from today, we'll be talking about what Biden is going to be doing to help fight the COVID-19 pandemic and what we can do to improve our situation. Hopefully 2 weeks from today, that's what we'll be talking about. If not, we'll be talking about Armageddon. All right. Thanks a lot for joining us. Check out our podcast. We're on all of the major platforms: iHeartRadio, Apple, Google Podcast, Spotify. We're on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube. And I've started uploading these shows to Instagram TV also, IGTV, Instagram TV. Just look for Papa Dennis Show on Instagram. And it's just another way that you can watch these if you want to. They're not live on Instagram, but I upload them after we've done the show. I'll upload it to the Instagram television. Instagram TV, IGTV is what it's called, Instagram. So, hey, thanks for joining us. I'm Dennis Elliott, Papa Dennis. Enjoy the debate tonight, and we will be talking to you tomorrow. Thanks for joining us today. Bye-bye.